Hi, I'm Aaron,
I'm Nikki.
and we're the Rhodes family. We're on track to serve in Taiwan as missionaries with OMF, and we wanted to share with you about how God is leading us. But my journey, it took 27 years for me to find the truth, and when I did, it set me free. I grew up without a Christian influence in my home, and that led to me having like a void that I was just looking for things to fill it with. And so I would get involved with things like Ouija boards and speaking with a psychic and seeking out spirits, just to fill that sense of longing for the supernatural that I had. And so fast forward to 2006, I do 1 year of college and I get bored and join the Marines. While I was in the Marines, I found myself within 1 year in Iraq, and actually was starting to get into the New Age movement as I was stationed in Southern California. And it got to the point that if you can imagine not knowing the difference between good and evil, believing that everything is okay, that's where I had gotten to. And so in 2011, I get out and I do a contract working as a civilian, working on Chinook transport helicopters. And that's when God really started to move on my heart. I had a fellow coworker who was just an unashamed evangelist, and he would just work on me every day. And just eventually, one night he asked me, "Do you want to ask Jesus into your heart?" And I knew that he believed in what he believed in, and I wanted that, but I didn't know if I believed it. And so I told him that, and he didn't take that excuse, and he told me, "If you want to believe, then let's say the prayer." So that night, that cold night in Afghanistan, I wasn't expecting anything was going to happen, but my whole life changed. Everything in me changed inside of me. And I knew in that moment that my heart found a home and that there was no turning back for me. Nikki's story actually started a lot earlier than mine with God.
So I grew up in a Christian home. I had a lot of ups and downs in my life, but God pursued me relentlessly through all of it. When I was 10, my mom was born again and just really started discipling me in knowing that it was about a relationship with Jesus. I ended up going on my first mission trip when I was 11 to the Philippines, and just came home knowing that that was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and eventually would recognize that as when I got my calling to missions. After that, I went on to nursing school in San Diego and went into the Navy Nurse Corps after that. I deployed to Afghanistan in 2009, and I was there as a trauma nurse. I was not ready for the things that I saw, and my theology was not ready for the things that I witnessed. And it just didn't hold up. And I came home just struggling and ended up addicted to opiates and self-medicating and one bad choice after another. And there was just so much shame involved, and I felt like I couldn't go back to the church. I got pregnant out of wedlock, got married, got divorced, lost my job, and that was my dry bones moment. Ezekiel 37, God takes Ezekiel to the valley, and he sees this valley of dry bones that are just hopeless and lifeless, and there's just no potential there. But we know in the story that God brings those dry bones back to life, and that is when God started working on me. My baby girl was 9 months old, and I was doing a terrible job of taking care, making my own decisions. And so I turned everything over to God, and he started teaching me to trust him. And he was way better at taking care of me than I was. And eventually he brought Aaron into my life. And we went on a couple dates, and I still had that longing, that call for missions, and had conceded that I was going to have to deal with that consequence, that I wasn't going to be able to do that. But a couple dates in, Aaron asked me, how do you feel about missions? And that's just when God, brought everything full circle for me. And I learned that I am not powerful enough to ruin God's plans for me.
And so after that point, after we're on the same track of we're going to do this mission thing and God brought this together to glorify him, we go to our pastor and we tell him all about it. This is where we feel like we want to go, is to serve God in missions internationally. And our pastor wasn't excited about it. So he told us to pump the brakes. We're a new couple, we're a new family, we need to grow together, and I need to get some education. So I went to Lincoln Christian University, taking his advice and his counsel, and got a missions degree from there, intercultural studies degree. And so now our pastor is approving and very happy and excited about what God is doing in our lives. And we are too. We're so blessed that we took that advice. So we're going with OMF, founded by Hudson Taylor in 1865. They just do East Asia, and we love that they had that expertise with East Asia and could really get behind us and knew the fields really, really well.
Yeah, so we decided to go to Taiwan. That's just where we really felt like God was calling us to go, and specifically a city in the south called Kaohsiung. So Taiwan is very densely populated. There's just a lot of people to be reached there, and we're excited to be working with the working class people. There are about 16 million people. There are less than 1% of the working class people are Christians.
And so with the working class, the reason they're so unreached is because the amount of bondage that Satan has them in. So the idea of good luck and bad luck can rule a person's life there. And also fortune tellers, kind of like psychics, are such an integral part of their culture that instead of knowing to go to Jesus, to go to God for counsel or advice, they see these spirit mediums to try to get advice about their life, whether it be a lucky day, to perform a wedding, or to have a baby. And they believe it so much that women will actually schedule C-sections on the lucky day for their babies.
Yeah, the religion there it's kind of a mix. It's a folk religion. So it's a mix of Buddhism and Taoism and Confucianism and animism and ancestor worship, and so there are a lot of rules.
And so we really just want to be a light in the darkness there in Taiwan, and let them know that you don't have to perform, you don't have to follow all these rules and be afraid, that Jesus already did it all for you, and that you just have to believe on him, and he'll set you free.
God has led us so clearly on the path that we're on. So we knew that we were going to Taiwan. We knew that God wanted us to be in Kaohsiung, and we knew that he wanted us to be with OMF. And we also knew that he wanted us to work with orphans in some capacity, and we just weren't quite sure what that meant. And we went on a vision trip to Taiwan, and we set up a appointment to meet with a couple that have been missionaries there for 30 years, that were in Kaohsiung, the city that we feel called to. And just before that, we went and had lunch with the national director, and he happened to mention that there was a new ministry that was starting up in Taiwan that was a foster care and adoption advocacy program. Adoption is culturally not widely practiced in Taiwan, even among Christians. There's that blind spot there. And so as we heard this, we realized this was what God was calling us to do. He told us we were going to work with orphans. And the national director said, well, you guys should meet this couple that they're starting this new ministry, and their names are David and Ruth, and they live in Kaohsiung. And we just looked at each other kind of with our mouths open, because of the 80 missionaries in Taiwan. Those were the ones that we were actually going to be visiting the next couple of days and spending the weekend with to see their church plant.
And so that's the direction that we know so far. Every time that we go to Taiwan, it's like a new stepping stone comes out of the water, and we just take a step, and God gives us another one. So I think we probably prefer it that way. And but we know our next step is to get to Taiwan, and we're praying that you will feel led to partner with us with your gifts, your abilities, your talents, however God would lead you to do that. Thank you.